what we're going to do to start out is almost the same thing, but the difference is really the orientation. Just draw a simple little line right in the middle of the top of this page. And then from there, draw a line like halfway going all the way up, like so. And the difference is, from what we were looking at back here, if this is my eye looking at these objects, that front face is facing me. What we're going to do that's different is I want to put a cube at a 45-degree angle. So sketch in what essentially is a diamond. I want you to concentrate on making all four sides parallel and perpendicular. You see I'm going back and forth, making sure that that's working out. But I've got a diamond instead of a square. And go ahead and draw 3 of them again. Trying to keep them approximately the same size. And by no stretch of anybody's imagination is that clean and crisp and full of craft. But what I'm trying to do more than focus on craft is focus on proportion, size, and making sure that the lines are parallel and perpendicular. So here again we're going to look at this seam being the horizon line. Whoops. But on this one I want you to focus even more. There's a horizon line, but because this cube is at an exact 45-degree angle to the way that I'm looking at it, it means that I'm going to see the same amount of this surface as I'm going to see of this surface. And we've got what is a vertical horizon line. Last year I think I called it a Verizon line. I actually looked that word up and I don't think it exists other than the name of a corporation. I was talking with some other people. We could call it vertical horizon. We could call it, let's see, what was the other word? A vertica. Whichever one. I like Verizon though. And now what I want to do is we're going to put 2 vanishing points on the corner of the page, right on that seam. Because our vanishing points are always, if an object is sitting flat and the top surfaces are flat, those vanishing points are always going to be on that horizon line. And this is 2-point perspective, so we've got those 2 points. So now I'm going to draw the front edge of that cube. And so this bottom should go over this way, that should go over that way. This should go over here. This should go over here. Now I've got the front 2 faces. Because of foreshortening, this is going to be shorter than this front edge, front leading edge. And because this is right at a 45-degree angle, that point should line up with that point. And these front 3 points, whoa. Oh, look at that. I'm not even following my own direction. This back edge should go towards that. And I'll be honest, this is where most people make mistakes just sketching cubes, are these 2 back lines. They do exactly what I did right there, which is make them cant out a little bit. There's a few things I want you to notice about this. And if there's anything you take away from the first couple of weeks of class, it should be what I'm about to tell you. What I also want you to do is let's draw a horizontal line that hits the bottom edge of this cube right there. I want you to draw another one that hits that top corner closest to us. And I want you to start to notice, because this is right in front of us, because it's centered in between these 2 points, 2 vanishing points, look what's happening with this angle. This angle right here. If I drew it all perfect and I didn't mess anything up, they really should be at the same angle. That angle right there and this angle right here should be the same. Same with this. It's a shorter angle. It's a more acute angle than that one on the bottom. And the same thing should be the case right here. And that is, again, if that cube is facing me directly. So now let's go ahead and hatch this in a little bit of this cube. Let's make this right surface darker. This one a little bit less dark. And let's leave the top surface clean. Now, the relationship of these three cubes to one another, look at all these points right here. They're in line. And so I can draw a line across this to help me place these other cubes. And in fact, what I'm going to do, as opposed to starting this cube out here, we're not going to line these up the way that we did in one-point perspective. We line these front surfaces up because we are taking into consideration that foreshortening that happens from right to left. Everything that's getting further away from me is getting smaller. So this front edge is the only thing, is the closest thing and the largest thing that we're going to see. But I am going to line them up a little bit in this way. Let's see. So I've got about that distance. Again, focusing on where those vanishing points are. If you feel like you can hit those vanishing points without drawing them in, please go ahead and do so. I'm just doing them for the sake of this exercise. Now what's important here to notice is I want you to look at those angles again. And I want you to also pay attention to how much of these faces we're seeing. If we look at those same angles out here, what's happened? This is a much larger angle, right, than this is, because it's got to move quicker back towards this vanishing point. So there's a couple of things to think about here. One is that these lines, these blue lines, are moving towards that vanishing point, and they are converging at a much quicker pace than these red lines. These red lines are much closer to being parallel than these lines are. You see how it takes that? It's got to get there a lot quicker so they converge a lot faster. It has a lot further distance to go before it converges to that single point, so they're converging slower. And just like on the front edge, this side has a larger angle, that side has a smaller angle. And the other thing that's different from this original one is this original cube, all three of these points right here are lined up on that vertical horizon line, or horizon line. These two are lined up, but this one kicked over this way. Go ahead and hatch this in. And the last thing to think about in the difference is I'm seeing more of the left side of this cube's face than I am the right side. So if we were to block that up, I see more of that than I see of that. And if we were even to look at how my viewer sees this here, I am going to use a straight edge for a second. This angle is going to be much more acute right here than the other two. And so that's how we're perceiving that. We're seeing less of this side. So now, if you would, draw one more cube over to the left side, essentially a mirror of this, thinking about those same things. I mean, most of it's set up for you already because you've got these vanishing points as a reference. But think about those angles.